NFO.
Today on our Midwest, or I should say U.S. Farm Report, we're going to have a roundtable discussion. The title of our show is Rural America Reports to the Nation. We want to bring out some of the facts that are happening in America, some of the things that are often misunderstood, some of the points how it affects everyone in our nation, not only just the American farmer, because of the low farm prices. This program is sponsored by members of the National Farmers Organization in this listening area and others interested in seeing the farmer get a fair share of the return for his investment and his labor. Many other people are also interested and should be interested, because the low farm income is costing our nation in gross national product, according to a survey by the Independent Bankers of America. In 1963, it cost our entire nation over $303 billion not to have fair farm prices to the American farmer. And today, I have as my special guest, on my extreme left, is Arnold Paulson, businessman from Granite Falls, Minnesota, who is an industrial and promotion agency man who's worked long and hard to get new industry into the community, realizing full well that we need new industry to keep our communities growing, but also a firm believer that the most important industry of them all, agriculture, should not be slighted. And then, to my left here, I have Mr. Volstadt, who is in business in Granite Falls also. He is very much interested in this farm situation, running a grocery business in Granite Falls, and also he is 15 years experience in the newspaper business. So he's quite concerned and real well versed in what's happening to his community and what has happened. And then on my right, I have Bob Wadsworth, a Minneapolis businessman who calls on rural clients, and this has made him quite concerned about the farm problem. And I'm going to start out today asking Mr. Paulson some of his findings in his community, since they did an extensive survey of what's happening, about some of the outstanding farmers in his area, because Granite Falls, Minnesota is quite outstanding farm community. Arnold, can you give us some information that you've gathered on this survey that was run?
Well, thank you, Butch. First of all, I'd like to repeat a statement that was made by the Commissioner of Business and Industrial Development in Minnesota, Mr. William Farrell. As he travels throughout the country, working with communities who are interested in attracting industry, the soundest advice that he gives them is when he makes this statement: if you want to attract industry and be successful, get behind what you already have and help them grow. And to me, this makes great sense, because the largest industry that we have in our state, and in any state throughout the agricultural areas, is agriculture. And if we really want to see our state grow and prosper, let's get behind the largest industry we know, agriculture. But now I would like to make a comparison, Butch, as to what a community loses because of low farm prices. On one of our other programs recently, I made the statement that Granite Falls possibly has more industry per capita than any other community our size in Minnesota. But let's see how this compares to the agricultural income. just because of the low, depressed farm prices that we have in America today, our community is losing $300,000 in addition to the entire payroll of all of our industry in our community because of low farm prices. So I think the best advice I could give any community in rural America today that is interested in attracting industry, if you would like to acquire the equivalent of all of our industry and its entire payroll, plus a $300,000 additional income, you can achieve this merely by supporting farmers and helping to restore farm prices to full parity.
I think this is a wonderful observation because few people realize what it's costing everyone in America today not to have farm prices where they should belong. I think you told us on one other program that farm income, gross farm income, multiplies at least 7 times in your industry. And I know, Elmo, you told us one time how that when you figured in your community that when you lost so many farmers, there were so many businessmen disappeared. Now, can you fill us in on that?
That's right, Butch. When a community loses 10 farmers, you can expect a business to go. In our own community this past month, we had 3 farms sold north of the community that went to the adjoining landowner. That means in my grocery business, that's 3 possible customers. And another thought on the number of farms and the effect of a community, 2 good farmers actually can do as much for a community as a small manufacturing plant employing 10 people. Sound impossible? Well, perhaps they have a payroll of $40,000 to $50,000. The product they're making, the materials are imported from outside the community and the product is sold outside the community. And then you have the tax benefit and the $40,000 to $50,000 payroll. Well, take 2 farmers with their equipment, their plant, and the money that they spend in the community for every part of their operation. And the fact that that dollar rolls around the community 3, 4 times before it rolls on to multiply 7 times in our overall profit in the United States, 2 farmers can mean as much to a community as an industry. Still, if I walk down the street of just about any rural town USA and walked into any businessman and said, I can get you a business, a good manufacturing plant employing 10, 15 people into this community if you will but give me $100, and 100 other businessmen will do the same. I imagine we would meet with 80 to 90% success. But if I walk down the street of rural town USA now and said, I want $10 to send 2 people to Washington to lobby for something that's going to definitely help the farmer, I might be successful in some cases, because I feel that rural America, the businessmen and the small towns are starting to wake up. In Minnesota, we've been told that by 1970s, we're going to have 80,000 farmers. But when this happens, we're going to have 3 out of every 5 of our smaller communities disappearing. Business people are going to have to join up. They're going to have to go if they're going to survive. They must take a stand, Butch.
Right. Now, think of this, folks. 3 communities out of each 5 in the state of Minnesota are going to disappear. And there's no reason for this. There's no reason why it should be. All we need to do is restore fair farm prices, and America will thrive clear on through the business. There was a survey done not too long back to show what the farmers actually lost in gross farm income because of underpayment to agriculture. And this survey showed, gentlemen, people in the audience, this survey showed that if you were going to count up just what the farmers were cheated out of because of low farm prices in 1963, that if you started to count this up and you had it in denominations that you could count $10,000 every single minute, and you counted 60 minutes every hour, and you didn't take a single minute off for a coffee break, you counted 8 hours every day, 6-day week. For 6 days you counted, 8 hours a day, $10,000 a minute, that it would take you over 27 years. Yes, I said over 27 years to count up just what the American farmer was shortchanged. And you can multiply this by 7 and you can see what the American economy lost. Now, I'd like to ask Bob Wadsworth what some of his findings as he goes in rural America and works in his business in Minneapolis.
Well, Butch, the thing I've been drawn into this is, I've told you before, more or less because I happened to hear Arnold Paulson giving one talk at the beginning when I first heard him up in northern Minnesota about the enormity of the farm problem. And the thing that has impressed me about these, and since then I have become aware and studied the economic report of the Independent Bankers Association. As you know, Butch, they sent a more or less task force to Washington a few years back to find out what was going on in the rural economy. And I don't think, and now I'm speaking for perhaps big city people, I don't think that they realize what is going on and how bad this really is. One of the problems, I think, is that people have stopped thinking and they're just substituting feeling instead of thinking. But when they do start to think, Butch, one of the things that Arnold has brought out in many speeches is the fact that we're living right now in a debt-fueled economy. And the fact that the farm, every dollar of farm income produces $7 in the gross national product should concern everyone, because if the farmers go down the drain, they can trigger a real depression. You want to, maybe you can fill in a little bit more on that, Arnold, because you've gone into those figures.
Well, Bob, I would like to elaborate some on that, but I have another point that I would like to bring out at this time before our time draws to an end. I would like to attack some of the brainwashing that some of our agricultural economists are imposing upon the American farmer. They're trying to stress this philosophy that if the American farmer today is to become successful, he must become more efficient. He must increase the size of his operation, and he must be willing to sell his production for less money. Now, this is the biggest hoax that I have ever heard of in all my life, Bob, and I would like to use an illustration. We have a young farm boy up in Granite Falls, Minnesota, who approximately 5 years ago was voted the outstanding farmer in Minnesota. And as I review his past and the things that this man is doing, I consider him as a very outstanding farmer, because he is employing every program that the economists and the agricultural advisors say that must be done if we're going to be successful in farming. This young man's name is Kenny Imes from Granite Falls, Minnesota. He's running a large farm, some over 400 acres. He is raising milk cows, and he's also feeding cattle. He's doing everything by the book. He is doing everything that the experts are telling them that must be done in order to farm successful. He's increased his operation. He's using all of the new scientific techniques, and yet last year he ended up losing $7,000. The only reason that this young man didn't lose more money than he did is because he is a very intelligent and efficient farmer. And yet he ended up losing $7,000 doing exactly what he has been told. Now, his answer to this isn't the fact that we have to become more efficient, increase our operation, and sell for less, because it's impossible to do it even if you're an Albert Einstein unless you get a price for your product. And yet business and industry in this country is using a double standard and trying to tell the American farmer that this is the only way he can succeed. And yet they refuse to accept this theory in their own business, because every time labor gets a slight increase in wages, and labor is entitled to their fair share of the national economy, I support them in this. But every time an operating cost goes up, business and industry solves their problem
not by producing more of the product and selling it for less, but they raise their price, and this is the way that it should be done. And as operating costs goes up for farmers, which is forced upon them by higher operating costs in business and industry and inflation, the farmers, the only way they can solve this problem is to raise their prices. And this is why I'm highly concerned, and I resent the fact that today we are told that 90% of all of the economists that are agricultural economists in our universities and colleges have adopted this law of the jungle philosophy that's been passed down by the Committee for Economic Development. When 90% of our economists feel this way, what chance does the American farmer have? And I feel that the only way they're going to solve their own problem and get back on a par basis with the rest of the economy in our country is to gain control of their own business, to stop depending on the federal government to solve their problems, because every year they're making it worse. And the only way this can be accomplished, Mr. Butch Swain, as I see it, is through the program of the National Farmers Organization, getting control of their own production, marketing their products together, putting a price on their product at the marketplace, and if the farmers will do this, they will solve this farm problem once and for all, and I'm 100% for getting farming into the hands of farmers and running it like a business. I hope I answered your question, Bob.
You did. There's no question about this, Arnold, that getting big is not the answer, or producing more for less, because just take a look, folks. If you continue to produce more and more for less, and some groups of people, some economists of our ag colleges are telling us that we should produce more and more for less and less. And as I see this, folks, it is my honest opinion that the people that are advocating this type of a policy, that we produce more and more for less and less, and continue to sell our farm commodities at less than cost of production to the American farmer, is selling America right down the river, just as sure as we're gathered here. Now go ahead, Arnold, and show us these other reports here that this outstanding young farmer up in Minnesota.
Well, Butch, I'm sorry I left this out. This is a very interesting thing. This Mr. Kenneth Imes, who I was referring to, is a very efficient farmer. He knows what he's doing, and he's done something unusual that I think very few farmers would dare to do. With me today, I have his bookkeeping system, or the accounting system of how he ran his farm. And after the end of last year, when he found out that he'd lost $7,000 doing everything that they told him and following the book, he brought his books to a CPA to have them analyzed to make sure that everything was correct. And as I understand it, the Internal Revenue Department has also checked his records. And now he has put his farm operating records on public display so that if any farmer in America anywhere would like to check his operation expenses and how he did it, and can come up and show him how he could have done the job better and made more money, he would like to have them do it. But here is a young man that is so sure of himself that he has placed his farm operation on public exhibit and letting the people know that he lost $7,000 and that he is not a success like he should be. And I think that's very, very important. Elmo, do you have anything that you'd like to contribute to this?
Well, I think this is one of the things that fools business people and fools a big city politician and businessman. They drive out in the country, they see these beautiful farms in Iowa, Minnesota, in our neighboring states and through this great Midwest area. And boy, the farmer is doing terrific. Look at that machinery, look at that new car. But they're forgetting about that mortgage in the bank. This is the thing we must remember, that the farmer the last few years, since the 50s, has been living on the depreciation value of his land and of his equipment. This can't go on. The independent bankers of America are concerned, and Main Street should be concerned. We're living on borrowed money, and we can't continue to live on borrowed money. Arnold, you mentioned the fact that the farmer must get a hold of his own business and start marketing his own product. Well, I run a small grocery store. When something comes into me and it's higher in price than it was a week before, I have to mark it up to my customer or I'm not going to stay in business. the farmer should have the same opportunity. But for example, in the case of grain, once a year he goes to the elevator and he says, how much will you give me? And this is what he takes. He's the only segment of our economy, the only group of people in the United States, this great country, the people that built this country, the farmer, goes and begs for a price at the end of the year. This does not seem fair in a country like America. What do you think, Butch?
Well, there's no question about it, because they're not only cheating the farmer, they're cheating all of us in America. And as I said a while ago, I think that those people that are advocating that we sell more and more for less and less are selling America right down the river, because in the next 35 years, we're going to have to double our entire production in the United States. Now, how are we going to do this if we're going to put all the farmers out of business? And I think that talking about getting bigger, there were some interesting figures that I have here made up by the University, Iowa State University at Ames. And it shows that for the year of 1962, that it shows what getting bigger will really do. And it's quite interesting, because to add $1,000 net income to the farm operation, the farmer was in the dairy business. He had to add 15 8/10 cows, or the equivalent of that. He had to invest $9,717, for which he received nothing. And he had to work 1,501 hours for nothing to add $1,000 net income. Now, if he wanted to do it in beef operations, he had to add 200 beef cow units. He had to add $63,000 in investment, and he had to work 3,060 hours for nothing to add $1,000 net income to his operation, and so on down the line. And there was only one livestock operation in the whole state of Iowa, the regular livestock operations as far as farm animals was concerned, that would even break even when you added labor and all costs and everything put together. And this happened to be in the hog industry. But in order, and these are at the prevailing prices that we received in Iowa in '62, in order to add $1,000 net income to his farm operations in Iowa, in the hog industry, he had to add 500 litters of hogs. I said 500 litters, not 500 sows. 500 litters. No, wait a minute. This is, yes, 500 litters. Invest $114,250 and work 13,000 hours. Think of it, 13,000 hours. But this was allowing some return for his labor to make $1,000 net income. This should prove to every farmer in America that getting big is not the answer. We must have a price to get this farm problem solved. And the only way to get a price in this day and age, that the farmers organize together and work together, as business people do, the same way that these business people work together in their community to get a price. Now, what do you think of the situation here? What do you think the solution is?
Well, Butch, I think the big problem goes right to the heart of the situation in the fact that every dollar of farm income, true farm income, not debt income, produces $7 in the gross national product. This, to me, is the key to the whole thing, and why those of us in business and everyone everywhere should be vitally concerned with this. Red, could you fill me in again on why this is so, that this $7...
Well, Bob, I'm very sorry, but we just don't have time to cover that at this time, because I notice our time is almost gone again. But before this program closes, I would like to hit something very important, and this is the vertical integration of agriculture. And this is something that I believe everybody in rural America should become concerned about, because I don't think they realize the impact that this is going to have on their way of life. As an example, one corporation farm in America today already owns approximately 2.5 million acres of farmland. They own their own processing plants, manufacturing plants. They have one of the major chains in America today for the outlet of their products, and in addition to this, they own 51% of one of the nation's large farm implement manufacturing plants. But this isn't the only integration of agriculture. The giant corporation feedlots that are moving in, and the way that the giant food chains are entering agriculture, the syndicates that are moving in. And this is a big disaster as far as the private-owned farms is concerned. Now, why are they integrating agriculture? Because the scientists have told us that within a period of 5 years, that this world will be facing one of the most fantastic famines that the world has ever seen, because the world will not be able to produce enough food for its people. They say that by 1970, billions of people will die of starvation because we will not be able to produce the food that this world will consume. So you can easily see that by 1970, food will become the most powerful weapon in the world, more powerful than the atomic, the hydrogen, or the cobalt bomb, much more powerful than any instrument that we have ever known. And I believe this is the reason why the giant corporations, the syndicates, and the food chains are vertically integrating agriculture because, as one industrialist said, agriculture will become the most lucrative business that the world has ever seen. And I think that if the American farmers want to preserve their farms and their way of life, they're going to have to organize now to help stave off this fantastic onslaught that the corporations have launched against the privately owned farms in America today.
Arnold, I think we need to touch just a little bit more on how big this one corporation really is. 2,414,000, I believe it was. But anyway, we done a survey in Iowa, and this is about the size of 7 to 8 of our average Iowa counties. Or it would be about like 12 to 14 giant corporations owning the agriculture production of the entire state of Iowa. Think of that. Whenever you get that type of a operation in business, no wonder these businessmen are concerned enough to come to Des Moines, Iowa, to help film this film, to help get the farm organizations and the farmers of America together, to working to get a price for our production and save rural America and bolster the entire economy of the United States. Elmo, would you want to add anything in the last half a minute or so here?
Well, only one thought. The farmer has been written off politically. He's been written off economically in this country. And along with him, the small town has been written off. The main street of rural America and the farmer and the processors must get together. Together, we are 40% of the population, and again, we can take our right place in America. We must join hands, Butch, to get this job done.
I would just like to interject one thing here. I want to make a personal appeal to farmers all over rural America to join this NFO organization and support them in their cause to obtain fair prices for agricultural commodities at the marketplace. Now, here's where confusion enters in. Sometimes people feel that if you're supporting the NFO or one farm organization that you're against the others. I don't feel this way because I encourage all farmers to retain their membership in the other farm organizations when they join the NFO, because this is only a marketing program and there's still room for other farm organizations, Butch.
There's no question about that. In fact is, folks, I belong to a total of 4 farm organizations, and I think that to a certain extent, all of them have helped some. But the NFO, the National Farmers Organization, offers the only real hope, the tool whereby we can all work together to solve our problem.
Yellow.